What's up, guys? It's Alec Torelli. Welcome to an episode of the Hand of the Day.
Hand of the Day.
Today's hand is a sick angle pulled in a EPT final table in 2011 in Madrid. I want to share this hand with you. I want to talk a little bit about poker etiquette and spots like these as well. And I think there's some strategy to take away from the hand. So let's get right into it. This hand kicks off. Blinds are, I think, 25,000, 50,000. And final table, EPT, main event. So this hand kicks off with Freitez in mid-position, notorious angle shooter in this tournament, apparently. He opens to 120,000 on 25,000, 50,000 blinds with 6-5 of hearts. Decent open, pretty standard. I'm assuming he's like one of the chip leaders at the final table. Two people behind him, and he's in the hijack, I think. So totally standard open here. I think that's fine, especially in the tournament when there's a lot of dead money and antes and you have a chip advantage. That's fine. Fold around to Yanyet. I might be pronouncing this wrong. Sorry, buddy, if I'm butchering your name. In the big blind, who has king, queen off. 70,000 more. Very standard call here to defend. He's going to be defending quite a lot of hands with getting this price. He's calling 70,000 to win something like 200. So he's getting a great price, closing the action. King, queen's a great hand. I like to defend. We go heads up to the flop. Flop comes king 5-3 rainbow. Big blind checks, which is very standard. He's going to be doing this here with all of his hands. Very standard spot. And now Freitez decides to bet 200,000 into 265, which is a very big bet. He has no backdoor flush draw, and he does have a backdoor straight draw. It's unlikely he's going to get check raised, so I guess it's fine to start applying pressure. But I think a bet of something like half pot, like 135, 140, 150 even, will do the trick. Maybe even go with like 100,000 here into 265, just because it's a really dry board. You still do have a range advantage. In other words, your hand as the pre-flop raiser is more threatening and stronger than the big blind defending in the villain defending in the big blind. So it's really likely that he's not going to check raise you. You're repping ace king, aces, a set of kings, and he can't have any of those hands. So betting small is totally fine here. It's a dry board. There's not that much he can call with. I think even 100,000 goes a long way. Still, 200,000 is all right, I guess. I don't know. You kind of take away him calling with ace high and stuff like that. Anyway, he decides to bet the flop. I'm not getting too much of the bet sizes. Yanat has a very easy call here. I think check calling is totally standard, especially when your opponent bets bigger. Really hard to check raise here for value, I think, when he bets that big. It's just probably a little too loose, especially with ICM considerations and stuff like that. The turn comes another 5, so Jin for Freitez, right? It's really hard to put your opponent on a 5 in this spot, and Yanat checks, totally standard. I mean, this is a great board for him as well. King Queen is very likely to be the best hand against your opponent's hands, all the hands he can have. So he's destined to lose a lot of money in this pot. Now Freitez, I think, has a pretty clear bet. The pot's 665,000. He actually got lucky that he set up the pot to be so big by betting so big on the flop, and he set up himself to win a huge pot, and where he turned basically the nuts. So I would go ahead and bet here. I'd bet 400,000 into 665, something like that, and then I would bomb the river. I'd bet as much as I think my opponent could call. I'm not 100% sure exactly what stack sizes are, so it's hard to say exactly my sizing on the turn. If my stack size was really shallow, like it sometimes is in tournaments, like if I had $1 million left, maybe you could bet like 280,000, 300,000, enough to guarantee your opponent's going to call with a king and then bomb it on the river. If your stacks are a lot deeper, like 1.5 million, you might want to go with a little bit bigger sizing on the turn, setting it up for a river jam. I guess you could make some case for checking back here, bluff catching if your opponent decides to bet, and unlikely to get 3 streets of value from King X. But with a hand this strong, I'm probably going to bet and try and get 3 streets of value with a hand this strong. Could make a case for going either way, but I probably lean a little bit more towards betting. Anyway, it goes check here on the turn. Freitez decides to get tricky and trap. The river is where things get pretty damn interesting. So offsuit 6. Now, Yanat definitely thinks he has the best hand here, right? His opponent checks back the turn, and he has king queen. So this is one of the best hands Yanat could have. Very likely he has the best hand. His opponent showed weakness on the turn. Very clear value bet spot. He decides to go for a bet size of 275,000 into 665, so less than half pot. But it's a spot where he's just trying to get value from something like King X, maybe a superhero call with ace high, or most realistically something like jacks, 10s, 9s, something like that, one of those mid-pair type hands. I guess 275 is a reasonable bet size because it's unlikely that his opponent has a king. And if he wants to get value for something like queens or jacks or 10s or 9s, whatever, he wants to bet a size that his opponent could call and simultaneously give himself a good price when he's bluffing. So betting 275 allows him to bluff for a cheaper price when he's value betting for a cheaper price. So I like this bet size, very balanced, very effective in tournament poker in situations like these. Now Freitez here gets, I might be butchering his name too, so I'm not really, I mean, I guess I'm sorry if I am. He doesn't deserve to have his name be butchered, but he is a pretty dirty angler here in the spot. So now Freitez here with the nuts, clear spot he's gonna raise. Let's see how he decides to respond on this river.
Raise.
Raise coming.
Sorry, call.
What?
Call.
You said raise.
You announced raise.
Speaking.
You announced raise.
No speak English. No way he meant to just call with a full house. That was not a mistake.
Thomas Krems has been called to the table.
I believe we're looking at an angle shoot here. Freitez knows the rule is that his raise must stand.
Wow, you see that?
And I think he's trying to make it look like he didn't want to raise, so he'll get a call out of Eugene.
I think this is exactly the same situation that we had already in this tournament, when you did exactly the same move and you had the nuts. I just share this information with you. Okay?
Wow, Freitez has got previous for this.
You understand? So I force you to raise now, and you have the option what you do. Twice, you need to put in another 275.
I think this is well handled by Thomas Kremser.
He's forcing Freitez to min raise, but he's told Eugene Unite that this is a move that Freitez makes when he's got a monster.
So
Because of what happened with
oh, do you force him to min raise?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not my option whether or not he raises. It's my option what to do now, right? That's what you're saying. Okay, I understand.
Armed with that information, does Eugene Unite now fold top pair?
I know we're not supposed to actively root for players, but I sure hope he muck.
So now it's back on Yanat, and the floor rules that, I think the floor was very fair. The floor rules that it was a raise, because he clearly said raise, so he has to abide by the rules of the tournament, but this guy has notoriously done this when he's had the nuts to angle shoot his opponent. So the floor was very respectful and said, hey, look, this is going to be ruled as a raise because legally we can't change the rules, even though this guy is clearly abusing them. But I want to tell you and make it warned to the opponent. He's basically telling him that the guy has the nuts and say, hey, look, this guy's done this 3 times in the tournament, and every time he's had the nuts. So I think the floor made a very, very good ruling here. I think it's a great ruling because he adhered to the rules of the tournament. But at the same time, it was very clear at this point that I'm sure this guy got a bunch of warnings saying, hey, look, this isn't in the spirit of the game. This is not proper etiquette. This isn't what this was intended to be made for, especially because these guys pretending like he doesn't speak English. He really does have the perfect angle here if he wants to kind of pull a cheap one on someone. So the floor exposed him and said, told the player, hey, look, you know, they were playing for, you know, $1 million, whatever. This isn't fair. This is what the guy's doing. He's been doing this all the time. And I just want to warn you that he's had the nuts. Go ahead and make your decision. So I think it's very fair how the floor approached it, basically exposed this guy for being an asshole. And I think that's a very reasonable approach. Now, if I'm Yanat, I mean, in a normal situation, you're not loving this spot just because it's very weird to get min raised here. But you're always going to call, right? You're calling 275. The pot's like 1.5 million. You're getting like 6 to 1. It's a clear call, even though you're not loving the spot. But when you know that this guy is like a colossal asshole that's been doing this with the nuts, it changes things a little bit. I'm still probably not going to fold, and in the end, Yanat ended up calling and got shown the nuts by this guy that was 6'5" or whatever. But this is a really brutal spot. I mean, there's really not much that the guy could do. I just don't see the reason. I mean, obviously, I don't see the reason for the angle. I would never advise anyone to ever do something like this. It's just so douchey. The guy's going to call. The sick thing is this guy goes out of his way to angle him, but he honestly won the minimum in this pot. If he bets the turn and bets the river, he wins way more from Yanat. Or if he just doesn't pull a shady angle like this and just raises the river to like 900,000, he might get called anyway, especially because, you know, everybody knows he's been angling doing this min-raise thing, and when he checks the turn and then bombs the river, it does look kind of fishy. Yanat might make a hero call in this spot. So he did win the minimum, and I hope he busted this tournament and didn't win. This is really shady. I hope this guy's broke. super tilting to see things like this. So I'm happy to use my channel when I can to expose things like this that shouldn't happen in poker. But I think the floor handled it excellent. I think the guy that got angled handled it excellent. And hopefully this guy has it coming and went on to bust in the tournament. But sick hand. Hope you took something from it. And leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. I know it's controversial. I thought I'd share something different on this channel. And that's it. Give it a thumbs up. Hope you like this video. Subscribe to my channel. I'm putting out more new content soon. And I'll see you guys next time on the Hand of the Day. Cheers.